They are over the luxury tax, but they are not yet in the first apron. So it means that their total payroll commitment this year was sitting at about 194 million. Hello, good evening. This is Taiwan Njobi, your host on Lado, that is Meko Sports. You know, we all like to bring unfiltered opinions, analysis, and some big love for Canadian upsides. Today, I'd like to break down the NBA. Sometimes we spotlight the CBL and we try to carve out some space for smart hockey talk. This is Taiwan Njobi, your commentator, analyst, and unapologetic fan of the game. Los Angeles Clippers fan. Today, I'm going to be, talking a little bit about the NBA. Towards the end of the season, I did get the opportunity to just give some kind of an outlook on how teams were going to, fall in place. But I had the opportunity of doing some kind of ranking. Today is a good day, good weather. Pursue your passion and make a difference. For the NBA generally, I like the fact that, the expansion work is going on fine. We're looking at two other teams joining us within the NBA family, within a period of 6 to 9 months. Presently on the WNBA side, which is the women NBA, we have a female team that will be joining from Toronto as well. Shout out to Canada, giving the opportunity to have a female team joining the WNBA. And, it's going to also bring some kind of life so that we don't just have only Toronto Raptors representing Canada all the way at the highest level of basketball. So that's a good one. We're also approaching the month of May. The Canadian Elite Basketball League is also gearing up. A couple of good players are joining the Calgary Surge, and a couple of teams are also, starting to look better. The Calgary Surge has just gotten a new coach, and he's beginning to show that there's going to be a very interesting summer basketball league coming for the CBL, and we're all preparing. We're preparing hard to see what they have for us generally. I personally will be attending a lot of the games in the Calgary Center for the Calgary Surge team. Let's not forget that the Calgary Surge team got to the finals last season. Even though it's a shorter calendar between the month of March, April, between the month of May, June, and July, a lot of the games are being played. And by the time we're wrapping up summer, the CBL is able to announce a winner. And most of those players go back to whatever country they're able to play more basketball within the winter. So some of them go back to Mexico, some go back to J League, some just come just for that short season and they go back to their country to continue to enjoy some good basketball. So a lot is coming up in a couple of months, and we're going to be covering the CBL fully because most of the games will be played around Canada. So we'll be able to watch it with a different mountain standard time as well. So that being said, the NBA is kicking out so fast. Full season has started, did not waste time. The in-season tournament was also good, that's the playing. The playing tournament was also good. And, it gave us a different outlook of the way teams are fighting. And one of the teams that really surprised us is the team from Charlotte, they really fought. Unfortunately, they couldn't win their second game, because they were around the 9th to 10th seed. So they needed to play 2 games to be able to qualify for the 8th seed. And, they couldn't just get it done against an Orlando team that was spitting fire after they had lost their first game. However, the Charlotte team looks like a team that can continue to compete, especially next year. And what I would like to say as a feedback to them is continue this energy with your young team, LaMelo Ball, playing at a very high level, all the other guys, Brandon playing at a very high, Brandon Miller, and a couple of other young guys on the team. Kenopol is also playing well. Kenopol to me plays a little bit like Gillespie that we have in Phoenix Suns. These are 2 young white boys playing at a very high level. So I want them to continue this. Kenopol scored the highest 3 points for the entire team. He had over 200 3-points made, and this is just his rookie season. It shows that young boy is effective. Even though this was his first postseason, he wasn't so effective. He also shows that he will grow and he will become a sensational. He will become a top player within the league because he's very effective from the shooting from beyond the arc. And I feel that he's going to do a lot of exploits in this league. So that being said, we've had a couple of games being played. in the first round of the playoffs, we've had two games being played. For some of them, they've played one. Some are still playing right now as I'm running this podcast. And a couple of teams are gearing for their game 3 starting tomorrow, and games are going by very, very fast. Presently now, the Lakers have been the big surprise. It was announced very close to the first game for the Houston Rockets against Lakers that Kevin Durant would not be playing. And once we got into that game, it showed that the team could not really challenge without Kevin Durant. And I like the fact that Ime Udoka came out and said it. He said they need Kevin Durant back to be able to challenge. Every team then really wanted to play with Lakers because 2 of their key players are injured. And right now, 2 key players of Lakers are injured and they are 2-0 up. You understand? In the first round of the playoffs, with only LeBron James and a few supporting cast that do not have big names. Doncic is injured, Austin Reeves is injured, and still LeBron is still able to carry the team to win their first 2 games. But now there's a lifeline for the Rockets. They don't want to go back to Houston and lose another game. They have to win their next 2 games in Houston to even the series at 2-2. Once they're able to do that, then they can come back to LA and start challenging to get home court advantage back. But as it is now, if it gets to a game 7, the Lakers are definitely going to play from home, for a game 7. So they have to be careful about that. If they're able to make sure that they keep winning now and they don't lose any games, then they can win in 6 games. But that is left to be seen. We'll probably just want to see a little bit of that. And Rich Shepard has really slowed down a bit. And, Rich Shepard was one of the reasons why I didn't go for a point guard, because I said it earlier in the season that I would have wished that the Houston Rockets went for Spencer Dinwiddie or Chris Paul. Those are 2 people that are free agents and they will definitely collect less than $7 million. The only thing I now got to find out was, based on the pedigree within the league, Spencer Dinwiddie will be able to command about $13.2 million. While Chris Paul would have been able to even take less than $6 million. The idea was for him to just get 1 more season. But the problem was the Houston Rockets was going to take him away from Los Angeles and he wanted to be in LA with his family. So that was another issue that I was going to have to deal with. So looking at all of that and putting them together, it would have been difficult for them to go for an elite point guard. And if you see the team, everybody has said it, every analyst I've listened to have said that the Houston Rockets still have a problem, that they don't have a flawed general, somebody to distribute the ball. Rich Shepard is young. This just is, I think, 2nd or 3rd year in the league, but he's still young. We still, they had a Van Vliet that has won championship with the Toronto Raptors team, who was practically leading the team. So, it's easier to say that they really suffered the presence of a flawed general. And most of the guys that were available in the market, Spencer Dinwiddie was committed already to play in Spain. And, it was difficult to get Chris Paul to come to Houston because Chris Paul wanted to be closer to his family in Los Angeles. So it was going to be difficult to go for any of those 2 who were already top level. Apart from that, they'll probably not have any choice than to probably just go for younger point guards, which probably don't really have a name yet, but can support Rich Shepard and, just go ahead with the season. But it's really not so far, because if you look at the team, they were playing very well last season, and that's why they finished 2nd, even though they went out in the first round. They were playing very well last season because of their defensive identity. But since when Kevin Durant came, that defensive identity is really not there anymore, even though Kevin Durant had carried the weight of scoring. So he's the highest goal scorer on the team, is, carrying a lot of the responsibility around scoring. But still, they are not as defensive as they were last season. Last season, they were 2nd. This season, they fell short and they came to 4th. And that's why they are playing, I think they came to 4th. And that's why they are playing, they came to 5th. That's why they are playing the Lakers. And so far, the Lakers, even though they look weak, has been able to get them understand their weakness. I just hope that in game 3, the Houston Rockets are able to turn it around. If not, going home in the first round is going to be so bad, because for Kevin Durant has not gone past the first round since when he left the Brooklyn Nets, So going home again in the first round is going to be very, very bad. It's not good for his reputation. Even though he's much older, he has done everything he can do for the game. This is the season where he has, moved to top 5 in scoring list all time. So he has done everything when it comes to personal accolades. But when it comes to galvanizing a team and putting them in positions to succeed, it's looking like, injuries are just coming at the wrong time. And, just for the record, I've also said it before. The team that wins this championship in the NBA is the healthiest team, not the best team when it comes to tactics or a team that is deep. No, it's not a function of that. Yeah, being deep too is also good because you should be able to get 5 players and an extra 5 players that can, that can come in and substitute those 5 and still play at a high level. And it's only the Oklahoma City Thunder that has that kind of structure in place. So that's why anybody that asks me, I tell them Oklahoma City Thunder has what it takes to repeat. At least get to the final again. They have what it takes because I can most likely guarantee you that their starting 5 will play all the games between now and the end of the season. Yeah, those guys are healthy. They look like they are smelling blood. And that's the way they are playing. And they are beating teams with convincing, gap. They are creating a lot of difference. Shout out to the Oklahoma City Thunder. I believe that they can do it the way they are going. So based on the first 2 games and some of the insights from the last few games, I'm also looking at the playing games. I was able to come up with what I call a clear tier system. It's like a four-man group, or let's say a 14 group tiering system, even if it is unstated clearly, but it's a tiering system that shows who is the boys. Who are the boys and who are the men. So if you look at it, I came up with a tier 1 where we have true title contenders, and those are favorites to be able to win it all. We have the OKC Thunder who came first in the Western Conference. They are still number 1, even with the number of games that have been played in the first round. We have San Antonio Spurs number 2. Yesterday was very emotional, with Wemby falling off, as a result of a bad tackle, and he had an impact on his knee. Now he has gone into, protocol, health and safety protocol, and it's looking like he may most likely miss the rest of this entire first round. Or if he's able to get, recovery, on the way and is able to come back in time, he may still be able to play, but the team has to, continue to fight, even though it was a close loss for the San Antonio Spurs yesterday, but it also shows that every team is fighting. Portland was able to get the win with just a 106-103 advantage. On my tier 1 true title contenders, we have Boston Celtics as number 3. They are playing well, even though they lost yesterday against a vibrant Philadelphia 76ers team with Maxey playing at a very high level. Maxey and VJ Edgecombe, those 2 guys, very young. And I feel that if they are not injured, they can make some noise in the East, even though I don't see them coming out of the East because we still have a very good Cleveland team. We also have some teams coming up. Pistons are able to get back another win, even though they lost their first game to Orlando. They were able to win yesterday. So it means that everybody is fighting for their life. Now, there are 3 teams that share what I call some kind of top ranking, and these are, they are top 5 on both ends. Historically, if you look at their elite style of playing on both ends, looking at their differential, very defensive and also very offensive. So OKC Thunder, San Antonio Spurs, Boston, they have a clear identity. They have a lot of superstars that can help them bend the game in their own direction. And I feel that those are the teams that are forming my tier 1. And if you look at my analysis, and I can form that based on the statistical profile, that these teams historically, they have some kind of identity around championship. Is it that they've won it before or they've won it within the last 10 years? Apart from San Antonio Spurs, probably the last time San Antonio Spurs won it was maybe 2014. Yeah, 2014 was the last time they won it when Kawhi was finals MVP. So since then, they've not won it. So within the last 10 years, I think it's only San Antonio Spurs that has not won it. But the 2 other teams, OKC Thunder won last year, Boston won 2 years ago. So these are 2 teams that have history of getting to the final. So they understand how it is. Tier 2, I call them dangerous contenders with one fatal weakness. And their weaknesses are a bit clear for the entire league to see. They are a number 4 team. They have elite offense. They are able to produce and score a lot of games, but they have bad defense, especially this year. Their defense, even though their backup center has really improved and given Jokic some time to rest, but it looks like they've still not fixed their bad defense. They're still going to be having some issues, but they're a dangerous contender. New York, number 5. They have elite numbers. They also won the in-season tournament as well, but their shot profile is a bit volatile. And if they don't fix that, they're going to be in a lot of problem. Also looking at the fact that they lost game 2 to an Atlanta Hawks that is just rising up. Nobody expected much from Atlanta Hawks, but they need to be careful because that Atlanta Hawks team is becoming very impressive. Cleveland Cavaliers are coasting. They've won their first 2 games against the Toronto team. For me, they have an elite top 4 lineup with a James Harden relieving Donovan Mitchell, and you have Allen, playing at a very high level. But for me, they still have a very shaky wing position. The guys in the wing position, for me, are still a bit shaky. And once they're able to fix 1 or 2 problems, they've won their first 2 games, so it looks like their weaknesses are not showing up for everybody to see. But at the wing position, I'm not really getting the energy I got like 2 years ago when they were number 1 in the Eastern Conference. Detroit are number 7, elite defense. Detroit, I can put my money on their defense. They are defending at a very high level. But they depend a lot on possession. They are possession dominant in their approach to the game. And they depend a bit on Kate Cunningham. And Kate Cunningham played so well in their second game where they won as well, because I think he was shooting 11 of 19, which was also good for him at some point. He was able to put in some points, and I think he ended the game with close to 30 points, around 27 points, just to help them, win game 2, so that by the time they are going to Orlando, they already have a balanced series already. Because nobody wants to go 2-0 up, because the third game now becomes a do or die game, because you don't want to go 3-0 up and you are thinking, how would you win the next 3 games? So that's exactly how, the postseason has been going. The Lakers are elite, clutch team, but they are missing 2 of their key creators, and that's Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic. Even if they make it through and they defeat Rockets in this first round, they are going to have to face the Oklahoma City Thunder in the second round, and they cannot survive that team. That team has beaten them convincingly very well this season, even with Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves on the team. Oklahoma has beaten them twice. It's a difficult pathway for them. I don't see any roadmap for them to go past the second round. The teams in this tier, which I call tier 2, they can win the title if they're able to deal with their flaws, or if their flaws are not exposed. A good example is Cleveland. Cleveland has won their first 2 games against Toronto, but they are going to Toronto tomorrow. Hopefully Toronto wakes up and try to win it. But if Toronto doesn't, then it can be a very early series, because the combination of James Harden and Donovan Mitchell is clicking so well, because Donovan Mitchell is now playing more of the role of a shooting guard, while James Harden is playing the role of a full point guard. He's holding the ball and is distributing a bit better. So if you look at all of that, if they continue with that, they may still beat Toronto in Toronto, but Toronto will probably not want a sweep. So I see Toronto winning 1 game in Toronto before they go back to Cleveland, and, they finish up things there, and, they can call it a wrap and start preparing for second round. For the Houston Rockets, I've heard a lot of people say, why didn't they fix their point guard issue? And, I was just doing some analysis looking at the fact that why didn't they, even though before the end of the season, their last, I think 9 games to the end of the season, Reed Shepard improved and he started playing elite basketball at very high level. So every coach will want to give him a chance to go into the postseason being the one primarily distributing the ball for the entire team as the point guard. But what now happens is the first 2 games of the postseason, he's really not been shooting well. And it's working against them, because that same thing that wanted them at the beginning of the season, the team does not have a clear point guard. Van Vliet with the ACL injury, there's nothing we can do, is also on their payroll. And I looked at it very well. I was like, oh, they are both luxury tax, but they are not yet in the first apron. So if you look at it, they have elite rebounding, which is good for them. They also lost one of their centers, Steve Adams, which also affected them. But they don't have a point guard. And in the last minute, especially clutch time, 5 to 6 minutes or 3 minutes to the end of the game, they fumble a bit, especially when they are now starting to depend on Operation Gun to do a lot of the plays for them, or maybe just do some drop off on top of the center of the opposing team, because Şengün knows how to work with post-ups, and most of those post-ups in the clutch minutes, Şengün makes some of those mistakes and it doesn't work out well for them. So looking at it, the Houston Rockets are currently over the cap and they're operating as a tax team. They are over the luxury tax, but they are not yet in the first apron. So it means that their total payroll commitment this year was sitting at about $194 million in dollars, and that placed them below the first apron. Now, this the first apron means that they would have had to commit much more money in taxes. So they had about roughly $1.3 million and below. If they are below the second apron, they'll be paying about 13 million. So it was good for them to stay within that luxury tax room, which gave them about 6.8 million in tax territory. So the idea was they didn't have so much money to be able to go out and get an elite point guard because Fred VanVleet is still on that payroll. And if Fred VanVleet is still on a 2-year, I think he signed a 2-year 50 million. So he'll probably be earning 25 million guaranteed the first year, but he's sitting out the entire season and is injured. But with the way things are going, the Rockets would have to fight to survive this first round, because for them to survive this first round, they have to cause an upset for the Lakers team. Lakers team that appeared weak, like a forgotten stone, are beginning to get some life back, even though we all know that they cannot go through the second round. But at least they can save their head and do a first round. And if they're able to get their key players back, maybe they can challenge the second round. Now, the Minnesota team fall within my tier 3. They are a playoff pedigree, but they looked so terrible when we were looking at least the last 9 games of the season. They were losing games they shouldn't be losing. I'm confidently able to say that they are the worst version of themselves right now. They are not really playing so well. Even though they've tied the series with Denver. Denver has won 1 game. They also won 1 game in Denver. Now they're going back to Minnesota to try and see how they can also pull in, as much Arsenal as they can. But their major guys are LD. Anthony Edwards is, playing some of the best basketball of his life. So I feel that they should be able to challenge at this stage. We have Atlanta, Orlando, Toronto, Phoenix, and Portland within this category. They can upset teams, but they are not, I don't consider them real title contenders. I'm impressed with Atlanta. There's, after they went back on Christmas break and they came back and they got CJ McCollum, they got, SGA's cousin, Nico Alexander, who is also playing at a very high level. They've really improved. Their shot creation has improved. Orlando, they come at 12th, elite defensive ceiling for me, but they still need to be consistent and get an identity. They survived the play-in because of their game against the Charlotte Hornets that turned out in their favor. They started with a lot of energy, and the Charlotte Hornets could not catch up because they were not shooting well. Toronto was number 13 as well. Strong defense, if you ask me. But they cannot beat elite teams. They are just struggling. Cleveland has beaten them in their first 2 games. They don't look like they are not even shooting well. I feel that the occasion is too much for them. Phoenix Suns are 14th. They started well, but right now, getting into the play-in, I saw more of a depressed team. Now their first 2 games now they've lost against Oklahoma. So it looks like the season is most likely over for them. But remember that this is the team that beat out the Golden State Warriors. So I felt that they still had something in them to be able to challenge. But right now, with what I'm seeing, I don't think they'll be able to push so much. Portland, 15 on my list. High 3-point volume. I like what I saw from them yesterday. They were able to steal 1 game from San Antonio Spurs. And their accuracy is getting better, because their young point guard is also coming. Scoot Anderson is coming to the party. He's trying to put in a lot of effort to also show that he can contribute. And I like what I'm seeing from him. Philadelphia is also within this group. Embiid is very uncertain. He has an abdominal injury. I don't have full information on how serious the injury is, but if you look at the bottom half matrix, you can tell that Philadelphia was the only team that had what it takes to be able to come up with that upset in Boston. Now, the first game in Boston won comfortably. Second game, Maxey and VJ Edgecombe they turned it up. The first game, VJ Edgecombe didn't shoot well from 3. But the second game, it was more effective, and he had 30 points. And that was the first time a rookie of that age would be having 30 points at that level. And, he just came to the party and he helped them. So he kind of consolidated or complemented Max's efforts in the point guard position, and both of them are gelling fast. So all these teams in tier 3, they can win at least first round, but I don't see them going far. Maybe 2 if they automatically turn around and start to build some good habits. They can win 2 rounds, but they cannot win the cup. They don't have the profile of what a champion is. And the profile of a champion means you must be very deep. You must be at least top 10 defense in the league. And the third one is you must not have key guys getting injured, no matter what. So the fourth level, I feel these are possession games and short quality teams. Across the ranking, generally, you will see that the teams that fall within these categories are teams that we can say that, okay, they're probably just preparing for next season. And that's why I didn't put their names here. Just preparing for next season, watching what's happening. They were in the playing, they showed a bit of grit. And that's the Miami Heat basically was within this category. Charlotte was there. My own Clippers was within this category as well. Then finally, we're talking about Utah Jazz. Utah Jazz finished dead last, but they're a team that will be able to challenge a bit more next season with some of the players they've bought that had surgeries this season, but will not be able to play until next season. So watch out for them, and they'll be able to come up with a lot of surprises next season. So there are teams that are going to be winning by offensive rebounding, and it's going to be very clear. They're going to force a lot of turnovers, and they're also going to generate more shots. And teams within that category are Detroit. They are the best in the league within this offensive rebounding. They are there. Duran is doing that a lot for them. They are forcing turnovers, and they are also generating more shots. And that's how they were able to win game 2. Phoenix has really improved, but I don't see them going past Oklahoma City Thunder. It can't work out for them. Houston has elite rebounding, but they need to be able to win games in Houston because they've lost their first 2 games and they are presently exposed. New York has elite clock execution. They play with a bit more urgency because of their new coach, but they need to do a bit more. When it comes to shot quality and efficiency, looking at generally the way teams are presently structured, elite shooting is what is going to help you go far. Rim protection and half-court execution, which means you need somebody that can help you execute from the half-court very well. OKC is doing well in that aspect. Boston, if you see their jump shots, they are very elite and they're scoring well from 3. Denver too is shooting at an efficient rate, and this is a very strange way, for you to just start shooting very well. It means that Denver can be dangerous as they go on in this series. San Antonio, Wemby is helping with rim protection. Unfortunately, he had an injury yesterday because of the way he fell. And someone that is 7'4", 7'5", falling like that, his knee will definitely be affected. So I wish him speedy recovery so that he can come back, and I really want to see him play at a very high level. And he has just won Defensive Player of the Year, so DPOY, it's going to be very, very bad to just, see him leave at this stage of the season, as San Antonio will have to struggle again with injuries around San Antonio as a team. It's a tough one for them. So historically, the league has always rewarded teams that are able to create a lot of shots, teams that are able to take care of the ball a bit better. So they have more possession volume, and that's why OKC, Boston, Denver, and San Antonio are the top teams in that category. So from my analysis, these are teams that will be able to challenge in those parameters. So looking at the bottom 10 defense team, the most important statistics generally that gives some kind of red flag with the teams that are even at the top, that qualified as top 6 in Western and Eastern Conference, that were in bottom 10 defense. Denver and the Lakers, they are the only 2 teams that are not in top 10 defense, which means that their defense is shaky. They have to score more points to win because they are going to absorb and accept more points because they don't have good defense. So if you look at it, only one team in 30 years has won a title with a bottom 10 defense. And I don't want to go ahead and say the team now, but it's going to be very difficult for Denver and Lakers to be a low 10, in a league that has that number of franchise or clubs. You are not a top 10 defense. You can't survive. You understand? So, and there are some teams that are heavily dependent on one creator. Detroit is a very good example. Kate Cunningham had collapsed lungs and he was away for 2 weeks, and he just came back, and the team is still depending on him to be able to take decisions, distribute the ball, galvanize the team, and put them in better positions to succeed. But if you look at it well, they need to move away from that mentality. Philly is also doing that. They are depending on Maxey and VJ Edgecombe. For them to be able to go over the line, then an Embiid has to come back because Paul George is still not playing as fast as Maxey and VJ Edgecombe. Paul George is doing his own. He's doing more ISO ball. He's able to take good care of the ball and he's a good shooter, but he's not playing at the pace of Maxey and VJ Edgecombe. So that's why, and they're also not playing in many minutes. Yeah, he's doing his own, quiet minutes. Atlanta as well depend a lot on CJ McCollum. If there's an injury to that guy, because he's a clear leader to the team. Kuminga also played well yesterday, but they depend on a few guys to be able to, Nickel Alexander as well. They depend on a few guys to get it going. Jalen Johnson too is also playing well, but we have not really seen the best version of Jalen Johnson, and that's what I'm even scared of. That New York has to be careful, because if Jalen Johnson is able to, step up a bit, then they may be a very dangerous team. So we have poor 3-point shooting team as well. In my analysis, I thought that we should look at teams that have poor 3-point shooting, but they have high volume. So it means that that team will be wasting chances. You are shooting more threes, but you are not efficient. And we have Portland in that category. We have Orlando and we have Phoenix Suns. High volume, low accuracy, and they're looking for an opportunity to impress in the postseason. They're just exposing themselves to their debts. They need to improve on that, and that's just my feedback to them. Number 4 in this category are teams that have poor shooting quality. You understand? They are beginning to improve, but the quality still doesn't look good compared to their contemporaries. Philadelphia 76ers is in that category. Houston is in that category. Minnesota Timberwolves is in that category. Even though Philly and Minnesota won game 2 because they improved in their shooting, but Houston lost game 2 as well. So Houston has more work to do on their hands. And teams that take tough shots, they always lose their defensive capabilities, and their defenses don't even tighten up enough. So the most underrated insights generally that I decided to put in my analysis, which a lot of people don't look at, and I'm happy to bring it, is the Spurs are on a different level, especially when Wemby is on the pitch. They're doing about plus 23.4 per 100. That's very historic. That guy, as an individual, has made that team better. He's the best player in that team, especially in his territory and in his lane. When he's going into the zone, he's able to do a lot. He can shoot without going into the box. He's very good, shooting from 3. He's very good in stretching. He's very good in 2-man game. He's good in almost everything. And that's why we may be witnessing something special once he comes back. Before the end of this series. If he's able to stay healthy, we may be witnessing something special in his style of play. Now, OKC's Oklahoma City, their rim protection numbers. One thing I've seen is in the league, there's no team team that doesn't have somebody protecting the rim like them. You understand? So they are the most, in fact, this point I've just talked about is the single most important defensive trait in the playoffs, rim protection. And they have 2 players that can do it for them. You understand? Even though it's not as if they are doing it better than other teams, but they have it readily available for them. You understand? So they've been able to put themselves in better positions to be able to get, some protection around the rim. And that's why they're also able to go deep in the playoffs as well. The New York Knicks have a late clock comfort, and they're also playing faster than under the previous coach. They're, playoff super house, but when action breaks down, they still score. You understand? When the time is clicking and is going, they're still able to score. That's one thing I like about them, even though, the issue with what happened to them in the game 2 was you shouldn't be having Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns sitting on the bench at the same time. You should find a way to rest them at different times. Then you cannot have Karl Anthony Towns just having to shoot less than 5 shots in the 4th quarter. No, it shows that they are putting a lot of pressure on Brunson. In the 4th quarter, let Karl Anthony Towns have more shots, at least more than 5. If he's just having 2 shots in the 4th quarter, it's a big problem. I don't see them winning. Jalen Brunson will give you whatever he will give you, but you need Karl Anthony Towns shooting more in the 4th quarter, but at least more than 2 shots at least, Then when they are on the bench, they shouldn't be on the bench at the same time. You can't rest those 2 guys. To me, as far as I'm concerned, they are the first and second best players on the pitch, with Anunoby being the 3rd player, but the best defensive player as well on the pitch. At least on the wing, is doing his job. So looking at it generally, those are things that they have to quickly fix. As much as they are very good clock team, they play faster compared to their former coach, but they need to fix that quickly. Cleveland playing so well quietly. They've won their first 2 games. They are plus 25 per 100 possessions, which is absurd. They are staying healthy. Donovan Mitchell is enjoying some of the best basketball of his life because he has James Harden beside him. playing with an elite star for the first time since he left Utah. Even though he had perennial all-stars in Utah, but having a top-grade superstar that has been postseason playoffs tested, you know, playing the position of the point guard while he is the shooting guard is really helping them out. So, Detroit Pistons are also a restricted team. They have that dominance. They're also doing well across all these categories I've talked about. So they are the most sustainable playoff scoring team, and they would always, push as far as KD is healthy. They will continue to push. Their game one loss was an outlier because, losing to an Orlando team was really surprising to everybody. But hopefully they're able to bounce back, show us what they are made of, and start to get some wins, under their belt. So there's some things that are deep, that are built for the deep run in my analysis, and I decided to just bring them out. They are very sustainable in each of the parameters I'm going to talk about. OKC has good defense and very good shot profile. Shea's mid-range is still super. It has a lot of butter on it. It has macaroni, a lot of things on it. OKC will continue to enjoy those mid-range shots as well. San Antonio elite two-way with Wemby playing. Without Wemby playing, they look very, very vulnerable. So San Antonio will also be a big team only if Wemby comes back. Boston is an elite two-way team as well. Jason Tatum has fully gotten into the rhythm and he's beginning to play some of his best basketball. Thank God he came back at the right time. New York is an elite two-way team as well. They also have some kind of clutch identity, but there's still some work to be done. Denver, they're struggling defensively, but they can also go on a deep run because, first of all, they fixed the issue of having a backup center in Valanciunas, helping out with Jokic so that he can rest and give them the best. His wrist is getting better, even though he had a wrist injury before the end of the season. So he will still be able to push a bit more for a deep run this season. So most likely there are some teams that will underperform based on their seed. And this is another category of some things that we've seen from the team. Detroit is a team that depends a bit on Kate Cunningham. So if that dependency, if Kate does not step up, they may underperform based on their first seed. Houston don't have a point guard, and everybody has said it. And they always struggle in the clutch, which is between 3 to 4 minutes or even 2 minutes to the end of the game. They start to forget and they make a lot of mistakes. Phoenix is inefficient in their offense. They're not shooting well. Their shooting accuracy is very bad based on the amount of attempts that they are taking. Philadelphia, they are struggling with Embiid having an abdominal pain. Embiid is fit, but this is a new abdominal issue that just came up. And hopefully before even this series is over, they should be able to get him back. Because once he comes back, he personally can dominate the entire Boston team. So we really want to see him back so that he can come and help his team, push for a lot of things. So the NBA has a new power structure and everybody is talking about it. The power structure is just showing that a team that is less injured has what it takes to most likely go deeper in the season than a team that is prone to injuries. A team that depends on a few people to take them to their El Dorado. If those people don't show up, they're also exposed. That's what the power dynamics looks like. The West kind of belongs to OKC and San Antonio with an LD Wembyama because those two teams will most likely face each other with the way it's going. And there are two best teams in the basketball team generally, OKC and San Antonio. They are the best two teams. The East generally, which is slightly weaker than the West, has Boston, New York, and Cleveland as the major front teams that are showing character. Detroit is the wild card. But if you look at these three, the most tested is still Cleveland. And that's because Boston, New York, and Cleveland, you will say Boston is the most tested, but they have just won a championship just 2 years ago. New York got to the Eastern Conference final where they lost against the Pacers just last season. Cleveland, they were number one in the East last season. They showed some promise, but they were out in the first round. Now that they have just gotten a James Harden, they probably want to be able to challenge and push a bit better. And, hopefully we're able to see, them push a bit. Denver is the only team with a superstar system that is working for them. And they are going to be able to disrupt an hierarchy that we have never seen before. As far as they continue to produce enough points. Their defense is shaky, but they're also efficient, when it comes to producing points. If they're able to continue like that, then they can achieve another, glorious trip to the final this year. Thank you very much for staying till the end, and we've been able to bring some wonderful basketball. Keep watching the playoffs and let's keep having fun. Thank you.